Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Michael Manfield. We warmly welcome the delegation from Veterans Affairs Canada who are with us this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this broadcast live across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join me in singing the national anthem. Those that wish to be seated, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians to understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Major Horace Norman Henwood. Horace Norman Henwood was born on the 19th of May 1889, the third son of John and Mary Henwood of the Adelaide suburb of Hindmarsh. After graduating from Adelaide High School, Horace was employed as a clerk for the South Australian Education Department. Henwood's bravery and leadership were apparent when he was first on the scene after a public shooting in Adelaide. He escorted the injured woman into a car and accompanied her to hospital. A month later, Henwood was among one of the first to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force in August 1914. He joined the 10th Battalion, and in October, just 2 months after enlisting, he left Adelaide aboard the transport ship Ascianus. Arriving at the training camps in Egypt in December, Henwood was involved in the landing at Gallipoli as part of the Mediterranean Expeditionary Force, commanding the Allied forces. After the evacuation from Gallipoli, the 10th Battalion returned to Egypt and had its first major action on the Western Front at Pozières in July 1916. Because of his experience in the senior cadets, Henwood began the war with the rank of sergeant. He would receive 4 promotions during his service, being twice promoted at Gallipoli and entering the Western Front as lieutenant. In January 1917, he was mentioned in dispatches by Sir Douglas Haig for his work as brigade intelligence officer, including continuous work under fire from April to September 1916. He was promoted to captain in March 1917 and to major in September 1917, just a day before being wounded during the fighting at Polygon Wood, suffering a gunshot wound to the left thigh. After 2 months' recovery in England, Major Henwood returned to the 10th Battalion in Messines, where it spent the winter of 1917 and 1918. In March, it was moved into the line at Spoilbank near Hollowbaker to the north. Before the German spring offensive in late March 1918, the Allies were subject to increasing assaults in this area. On the night of the 1st of March, Major Henwood and his company were to relieve the 13th Battalion in the front line. As Henwood was setting up headquarters and relief was nearing completion, the Germans conducted a raid on their position. Official war historian Charles Bean later recorded that, completely surprised, Henwood was captured. But on its way back, the party which seized him was seen by one of the posts between which it passed. Fire was opened, men were seen to fall, and a patrol of the 10th, which afterwards searched the ground, came upon Henwood dead. The cause of death was a bullet wound through the heart. Horace Henwood was 28 years old. His younger brother, Private Arthur James Henwood, had enlisted in November 1915. He had taken on strength as a reinforcement to the 10th Battalion and was likely nearby when his older brother died. Horace Henwood was buried at Spoilbank Military Cemetery, and the words, "He fought the good fight," were inscribed on his headstone. He was survived by his mother, wife, and son, who suffered further pain when the package containing his personal effects was lost. It had been bound for Australia on the steamship Barunga when that ship was torpedoed by a German submarine off the coast of Cornwall in July 1918. British destroyers were soon on the scene and managed to rescue all aboard. but the personal effects of about 5,000 Australian soldiers who died on the Western Front were lost. Major Horace Norman Henwood is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. He can be seen in the photograph displayed today beside the pool of reflection in the front row, fourth from the left. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Major Horace Norman Henwood, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.